had a question, because you know what? You know, my children listen to hip hop, and they probably listen to things that I don't want them to listen to outside my home. But I'm wondering, you know, like, I don't have a problem with hip hop, but you know, what's wrong with Julia being a nurse? That was an attainable job, being a nurse. You know what I'm saying? RN. What I'm saying is that don't we have other images? You know, Danny Bakewell is the editor or the owner of a big newspaper in Los Angeles. Can we have something like sitcom that's similar about somebody being a businessman? What I'm saying is that hip hop is good. Tupac Shakur was a brilliant man, but he lived the fiction, and he's dead because of it. And we have denied a great artist, poetry, art, a great artist, because he took on the fiction and made it reality. And there's a whole bunch of kids that are listening to people like Dr. Dre, who grew up in Baldwin Hills, Ice Cube, that grew up in a two-parent family and is married since God knows when, Snoop Dogg, who my white girlfriend, who's an attorney, told me she's one of the most respectful men he ever met. You know? But the image is very negative to the community as a whole, because these children take that as truisms. That's the only reality. That we're going to live and die on the streets of LA. That there's no other way out. That you can't be a dentist, that you can't be a doctor, that you can't be a phlebotomist, that you can't be other things. And that's all I'm asking for is the media give me some more avenues. I'll take hip hop and I'll take the gang, as long as you show me somebody that's working every day, supporting their family, and trying to get a great education.
Can I comment? Thank you. Can I comment quickly? I'll do a quick comment on that. I think that Scott, Professor Brown, really hit into kind of like the heart of this. That there was this entrepreneurial, this kind of like real work that was done as a result of so-called entertainment. Having said all that, to get to your issue, I would argue black folk need to turn the TV off. Right? What's more real and make a new reality. And I think this may be a partial segue to the next panel that I would argue that during the 60s and 70s that there was a lot of negative imagery, if you want to use that terminology, but it was also about what were people doing in terms of being organized and trying to be organized and trying to be involved with something to do something. So if you don't have black youth involved with trying to do something, then they're going to look at TV. That's what I did. If I didn't have anything to do, I'd turn on boob tube. Now, luckily, I was able to get past some of that, but at the end of the day, it's not about, I would say, the image of the documentary. Hollywood's, that's what I'm saying, Hollywood's going to do what it's going to do, because that's what it does. It's going to make a King Kong 4, right? And a King Kong 5. That's what they're going to do then. But the question is, what are we going to do? And so if we do it, then maybe we can worry about that image, that King Kong 6 movie later on.
I just want to really, okay, and I just want to say, as far as just timing, that we're ready to act and talk about action, so we're going to have to wrap this up. So
Okay.
I've got two more comments.
Yeah, really quick, just to follow up on what you said, I think what you're talking about is that authenticity problem that I mentioned earlier, and that is, black authenticity became this full-time job that became South-centralized, to be hard, and all that stuff is something kids want to do. And the other things you're talking about, you don't see, the nurse and the other images just got pushed aside. They're just not as glamorous. They were not sold and commodified the same way that the other images were. So that became, that's a problem. But I believe it was right. It's what we do that really matters. And also, one last, I'm sorry, but the problem, when NWA came out with Straight Outta Compton, they were talking some real problems that do exist in black neighborhoods that were abandoned, that they saw no hope in. It quickly got, that became commodified, overtaken, etc. But that original, what Ice Cube called being the CNN of LA, of telling what's happening on the ground, is very legitimate. Now it became entertainment, what I call ghettotainment, and the lines got blurred between what was true protest and what was just people talking, trying to make some money. And I think that's part of the problem we've had here.
Okay, so last
Yeah, I had a chance to teach a class on Black LA at Penn State, and at Penn State there were Crips from Pittsburgh. I taught a class on Black LA at the University of Maryland, and there were Bloods on the campus who graduated from Harlem. And what I found in teaching the class, there was a great deal of knowledge about Black culture in Los Angeles. There was a great deal of curiosity about, the drama, the imprisonment, the incarceration, the resistance against policing, the courage to express yourself. There was even tourism. People fly from the East Coast and want to drive up and down, cruise up and down Crenshaw. And that still exists. That exists in Brazil. That exists in the rest of the United States. And there's a great deal of empathy for the suffering that happened here. And what people are really waiting for, I guess that's your next panel, is the leadership to come from LA to talk to the rest of the country like it used to.
One of the panelists from the next panel pointing to someone who's going to speak, so I guess I'm going to go ahead and...
Yeah, just a quick point of information. In South Africa, hip-hop in South Africa began in one section, and as it moved to another section, it picked up a particular style, sort of the gangster style, and that's when you start getting this discussion of Crips and Bloods in South Africa since the mid-90s. But South Africa is not a city, right? It's a big country, it's a big place. There's a lot of things going on, and most of the hip-hop that comes out of South Africa is really quite progressive, and a lot of health education, HIV, AIDS education, family education, all of that comes out of hip-hop because it has a unifying aspect to it, because you can speak across languages in hip-hop. Because it is from another country, you're not then insulting people by doing cross-lingual things, and that happens a lot in global hip-hop. So I just wanted to bring that out. A very quick question about image and Los Angeles in particular for the panel, and that is, in a way I guess it's a political question. We've got Hollywood controlling images, and then we have the African-American community trying to recapture it. That's part of what Dion brought out, and controlling it. I've heard people talk about the baggy clothes as a result of when you get your older brother's clothes and it's too big because you're young, and that's where the baggy clothes in hip-hop comes from, as opposed to the prison system, which made me think, well, is that a West Coast thing to argue that it's from the prison system versus the very logical thing coming from impoverished communities? Clothes are handed down and they're too big, or things like that. But hearing these young men argue that that's where they came from, I thought, wow, that's true or not, didn't matter to me. What was really compelling was that they were trying to control that image in some way. So I just thought that was to reclaim that narrative, I thought was really interesting. For a 16-year-old to do.
Just a personal anecdote, I grew up in Hawthorne, borderline of Inglewood, and I wore baggy pants because in terms of the economic issue, my mom was like, listen, why would I buy pants that fit you just right when you're gonna grow out of them next week? So we got the big pants to grow into, right? So I see it from an economic issue.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to take moderator's privilege and say we're going to move on to action. Action could be buying size pants, but we're going to. So the last chapters address the issue of action, and they do so over time. And I think I assume that one of our goals here is to think about the major takeaways that can come from those chapters, and we have yet another illustrious panel to help us do that. And on our panel, and here you go. Okay, so we have Mark Sawyer, and he is a professor of African American Studies and Political Science here at UCLA. He is director of the Center for the Study of Race, Ethnicity, and Politics. He has a book, his most current book is entitled Racial Politics in Post-Revolutionary Cuba. And his area of expertise is the intersection between race and gender in modern Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. and so we're looking forward to his comments. We also have with us an iconic national figure in Elaine Brown, a former leading member of the Black Panther Party, and the first and only woman to lead the party. Among her many books is her memoir, A Taste of Power, and she's presently writing a book, Melba and Al, A Story of Black Love in Jim Crow America. And she is, and Mr. Bakewell are both referenced in the book. And so that'll be my segue to Danny Bakewell, who is executive publisher of the Los Angeles Sentinel and chairman of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. He has been instrumental in many organizations here in Los Angeles, one with which his name is almost synonymous as the Brotherhood Crusade, and as I have on other panels, I encourage you all to read the panelists' bios at a later point, but I want us to get to their opening comments.
I'm not worried. I'm going to start talking about it. I think these groups of chapters are extraordinarily interesting in the context of the book because they almost end with, rather than the kind of discussion that just ensued, the glass half empty, they demonstrate that the glass is half full. And they focus on the range of activism that has historically gone on in Los Angeles, but that is currently going on at different levels, all the way from the grassroots into the halls of power in state legislatures, et cetera. One of the things that struck me about the chapters is they demonstrate the broad range of Black activism in Los Angeles: labor, higher education, traditional voting politics, gender, coalitional work, economic and environmental justice. All of those issues have been sort of central issues and are issues that are being organized for, both at the grassroots, but also at the level of sort of mid-range and elite levels within the context of Black Los Angeles. Further, Black Los Angeles isn't always, and in particular in these sets of chapters, is rarely isolated. I think that's what makes them particularly interesting and powerful in their discussion. That is, that any attempt to sort of think of Black politics as being parochial or caught into some sort of small set of interests related only to Black folks within a sort of small community is shattered by the ways in which we see that these activists are simultaneously engaged in local, national, and international dialogues, statewide, et cetera. And they're also working in and amongst and with a wide range of groups, Latinos, women organizations, organizations with different and a range of different ideological bents, all the way from Black nationalism to traditional political activism, civil rights activism. These are the kinds of things that characterize Black LA and Black organization that make it difficult to sort of pin Black activism as being a single thing, but really describe the Black activism and agency in the context of LA as being characterized by its flexibility and its depth and breadth. So it's almost as if Black activism, it's almost easy to miss Black activism in the context of LA because it's not characterized by a single leader, a single set of figures, but it's a series of different nodes of people that are actually being highly effective, from organizing security guard workers to fighting the distribution of the toxic load in various neighborhoods. And those are all different kinds of struggles that are going on and are being highly successful, but aren't characterized by, say, for instance, something like in New York City and Al Sharpton, or a singular kind of voice that someone points to as the kind of voice of Black LA. So Black LA is multivocal. It specifically includes women. It is gender. It has gender. In other parts of the book, it includes Black queer politics. It also, as I said, is international, as well as even Black LA focuses on issues like higher education, the way in which a group of Blacks, both on campus and off campus, came together around the issue of Black access to UCLA and higher education becomes a really interesting endpoint in the book. In fact, in some